Sure.
Thank you, everybody. This is Ryan from RG Alliance. This is Real Talk with Ryan, and it is July 29th. And we have a very special guest today, Don Greene, who is running for Escondido City Council District 3, is our guest today. And, you know, we've had really interesting guests from a diverse background, from a diverse line of work and business. This is the first one on this show series we've had that's been running for an elected office. And so, Don, I am thrilled to have you. I know everyone on the call today is going to have interesting questions to ask you about why and what. And this isn't a platform show. This is why you exist show. And what we want to know is a lot of questions about what matters to you in the community. So first, we thank you for being here. If anyone has any questions or comments, the chat box is open. The Q&A is open. You can use either. I will pick those up and work them in. And then at the end, we'll leave about 10 or 15 minutes or so for live questions. We'll stop the recording and you can ask Don something live. You won't be on the recording that will go out to the public. So Don, with that, thank you so much. We're excited to have you. And my first question is, why run for an elected office? Why District 3 for you?
Well, it's the bug. When you get involved in politics, I think, well, like with anybody's passion, once you find that hook, once you find the appeal, you just, want to go and do it all the time. That was politics for me from an early age. So when I moved to Escondido 11 years ago, I moved into District 3, well, what is now District 3. 11 years ago, there weren't districts in the city. So I became involved in local politics almost immediately. We had some issues. I live in a mobile home park, and so we had a couple issues, and I asked around who can I call, who should I connect with, and the first person that was given to me was Olga Diaz, and so she and I have been working on issues for all these 11 years that I've lived here. It really is a drive and a passion that is inside of me that makes me want to create policy that will really make Escondido the best city that I possibly can make it to be, and what everybody else wants it to be. We have some challenges ahead of us. We have some great opportunities ahead of us, and that bug inside of me, that political bug, wants to be part of it and wants to make sure that we are doing everything, or that I'm doing everything I can to make Escondido a great city.
Well, we appreciate, I'm an Escondido resident. Our RG Alliance business is based in Escondido, and I'm always drawn to anyone in community or in public office who really has an affinity to the community they represent. And it's a little cliche, but a lot of people just struggle with those who seem to just be trying to take the next step, looking to the next office, that this is a stepping stone, and it's really not about the community they reside in. So let's go back to the beginning of what brought you to Escondido 11 years ago in the first place.
I lived in San Diego. I'm a California native. First of all, I grew up in the Los Angeles area, so know California like the back of my hand. Lived for a very short time in San Antonio, Texas, and then from there in 1993 came and moved to the San Diego area. So for those who are familiar with the downtown Hillcrest Balboa Park area of San Diego, I lived about a block and a half away from the zoo. So I lived in that area for quite a long period of time. My mother, who is 87 years old, who is living with me now, she lived in Orange County. Her husband died and she was living there all alone. My sister, my only sibling, she moved her family to Phoenix, so they're in Phoenix area. And so it just made sense as some health issues came about to find a place that was in between. And so because at the time, she was still going up to Orange County for activities, I was still involved in activities in San Diego. So we looked all along the 78 corridor, and quite frankly, we found the home that we liked and we found the community that we liked. in Escondido. We looked in San Marcos, we looked in Vista, we looked in Oceanside, we looked all over the place. And what we found was that Escondido was the place that really best fit our growing up. We grew up in a small little town called Southgate in Los Angeles. And so it was pretty, I won't say exactly the same, but it was pretty much the same growing up there, and the same feel here. A smaller town, not real big, but deep sense of community, deep sense of history. So that's what drew us here, and that's what made us feel comfortable living here.
So you got here and you talked about having an issue and bringing it, who do I talk to? And you got connected with Olga, who I've known several politicians in my life, but she embodies the idea of the community and really wanting to give the people in the community a voice and to feel like they're heard, as well as good as anyone I've ever met. And I really appreciate that about her. And I'm sure you found that in her when you first approached her and talked to her about that. What was that next step that started to get you involved in, wow, I want to contribute in a meaningful way to the community? And so what were those steps you took?
Sure. The issue that I contacted her about, it's a little in the weeds for mobile home issues, but the city of Escondido currently is the authority that does state level inspections for mobile home parks. 11 years ago, the city was looking to give that authority back to the Department of Housing and Community Development with the state. That would have meant the level, at least in my opinion and opinion of a few others, that meant that the level of inspection and level of kind of monitoring the mobile home parks and their conditions would have decreased, because quite frankly, HCD and the state, they're overwhelmed. They were overwhelmed 11 years ago, and they're, doubly so now. So I went to her and said, what can we do? This is, maybe you're not particularly interested or familiar with mobile home law and how mobile home things work. So we worked together on that. That started a mini career, if you will, in mobile home and dealing with mobile home issues here in the city. I founded with a couple other people, we founded a group, a mobile home advocacy group, and I represented a number of mobile home park residents in their renting hearings at City Hall, because the council sits as the rent control board. Also was a witness for a couple mobile home residents in small claims courts. We went to court to get back some charges that were made against them illegally by park owners, and we went to court and we actually got that money back. So based upon that level of advocacy for them, the natural step in 2012, and to be honest, with a little encouraging and pushing from Olga, I entered the race and ran for city council in 2012. That was the last at-large election in Escondido, and I came in third. She and Mike Marasco were the two incumbents, and they came in first and second. And then I came in third with over 10,000 votes. So after that, I saw absolutely no reason to not stay involved and to not stay, active in my community. I worked with when the districts were drawn, I represented the mobile home park groups and made sure that they were represented as communities of interest, so they weren't split up and divided. So I just have always stayed active, as I said, because I feel drawn to that public service, to that good governance, to good policy. So it just seemed like a natural progression, a pretty easy natural progression.
I love it. This is Real Talk with Ryan. We're here with our special guest, Don Greene. If anyone has questions, feel free to use the chat box or the Q&A. I'll work them in. We'll ask live questions at the end. Don, thank you for all that. We're excited to have you and hear your story. You brought up something really interesting, and we hear about this at the national level a lot, but oftentimes it gets swept under the rug at the local level, and that's this concept of this at-large and district lines and redistricting. I know that's a constant topic, and one of the questions that's come through chat has been, what is the importance of that redistricting and how it can leave people either disenfranchised or underrepresented?
Mhm. Well, having gone through two now, I went through the city of Escondido when we were taken to court, and we were, by issue of the court, we had to break up into districts. And then I worked for 4 years in the city of Oceanside as the council aide for the deputy mayor there. And we went through districting again there. So watched two different ways of doing districting. I, quite frankly, prefer our way of doing it. We have a very set of procedures that we have to follow, and we cannot, in that process, the city has to hire a demographer, and they work with us, and there are very specific rules that the state and the federal governments, the Voting Rights Acts, both of those pieces of legislation set so that groups are not disenfranchised. And as I talked about with the communities of interest for the mobile home parks, that's one of the criteria. If there is a group of people, whether for whatever affiliation, whether it is like our District 1 that Deputy Mayor Consuelo Martinez represents, that's our over 50% Latino district, and so that's a community of interest that's taken into account. Mobile home park, whatever affinity that a group represents, they're given preference, and they really try to keep those people within one district so they're not alienated and they're not broken up. We have the process, I'm not sure when the closing date is for the applications, but because of the census happening this year, we know that in next year we will have to redistrict based upon every place that has a district will have to redistrict based upon census data. So the city of Escondido will have to do that with its council districts. It's possible that we might change a bit. I don't foresee us changing all that much because we haven't had that large growth of population, or that, our population centers really haven't moved all that much,
Right.
but we'll have to see what happens. What is good about most of the districting procedures now is that the council is not part of that at all. They have absolutely zero say in it, and they have no influence on it. So it's run by citizens. Citizens apply. There is a retired three-judge panel that comes in, reviews the applications, picks the people who are on the districting committee, and then the committee goes to work and does that without any respect to where council members live. So it's entirely possible, although I don't think it's very probable, but it's entirely possible that I may be districted out of my district if I win election this year. So
that's interesting.
I would maintain my seat until the end of the term, because it's for 4 years, but then I would have to either run in the district that I'm in, or there are various sets of procedures when those kind of oddities happen. So it's vital in the sense that you have somebody who's from the district that understands the particulars of it.
Sure.
Overall, every council member is voting for things that happen across the city, but having that one person that's sort of a subject matter expert on your particular part of the city helps, I think, tremendously.
Perfect. That's interesting. I did not know that the council didn't have any input. I thought that somebody decided, and whoever controlled the space controlled it, and that really the citizens of the city had more say in what happened. That's kind of an education piece, or if you can inform people that they actually do have some measure of control that they can exert to participate in local government. And sometimes you don't feel like you have that voice. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I'm really interested. I know people listening will be interested, and we want to learn more about you personally and what matters to you and how community matters. And so I have two questions, and you can tackle these either way. Again, we're here with Don Greene, running for Escondido City Council District 3. If you have questions, use the chat box. 2 parts. Part 1 is, what's exciting to you, the most exciting thing about running for office that motivates you? And then what surprises you that you didn't expect negative when you're running for office?
Okay, I'll answer them in order. And I'll probably ask a clarifying on what you mean by negative. But let me start with what excites me. And what happened right just in the question before, that's what excites me. Being able to not just be the person who is doing policy and making policy and writing legislation and making things happen, but getting people involved in their government. There are so many folks locally, regionally, that just don't understand what it is that how much of an effect they can have on local government. And that is, I think, the most important thing is for me being able as a council member or as a candidate to say, no, you have an amazing amount of ability to affect change in your city. We just need you to take part in it. And it's real easy. It may take a little bit of time, and it may be a little bit of a frustration at the outset, but it's so worth it when you accomplish the thing that you set out to do, and you see the benefits to not only yourself, but your community, your neighborhood, all of those things. And that's from getting a sidewalk put on your street, that's from getting your roads repaved, all of those things. Citizens can really have an effect on that. And that's the exciting thing, getting people involved through the candidacy, through telling them that, that seat that's there, it doesn't belong to me. I'm just its occupant. It belongs to the people. And you're asking me to sit there and represent you to do these things that you want me to do, and the ideas that I have to get done. So help me to do that by, keeping in contact with me and being part of the process.
I love that.
Yeah, let me ask you to clarify negative for me.
So you get in and you put yourself out there, and it takes a level of courage to level your platform, to express what you believe as best you can, and express your willingness to help the community while you have two people who have completely opposing opinions of that, and then a completely opposing opinions of you. Sure. And that's got to be taxing on you. How do you address, because that would be difficult for me to absorb. How do you deal with that as you go through a campaign and even in public office?
Well, the old saying, you have to have thick skin, and a lot of it is that you have to have some thick skin. A lot of it also, believe it or not, is for public display. I know quite a few instances here locally, and quite a few instances in Oceanside, where council members would butt heads over an issue and then walk out to their cars together and laugh and have a great time. So a lot of it there seems to be a lot of negativity that's involved there. But once you're involved in it, you come to understand that if your colleague, if they are of a different party, or if they are, even if they're in the same party, but they just believe differently on something, I hope that they advocate for it. And I hope that if I present a position and it's contrary to what they believe, I hope they challenge me on my position, so that at the end, the product is the best, because we've tried to knock all the negative, all the bad stuff out of whatever project, whatever proposal, whatever it is that we are trying to get across. I like that process. I like that approach. We should never be afraid of conversation and communication, as long as it's respectful, and we can treat each other like adults and sit at the same table and have our differences. That it's for me. It affects me. I would lie if I didn't say that, I've already in the campaign, I've had some things said about me which are just blatantly untrue, and that's okay. That happens in the heat of campaigns. But if we can focus on the process and the outcome, instead of all the process that's in it and all the ugliness that sometimes the sausage making is there, and we can just focus on the end product, that's where I'm driven. I'm not driven by what am I gonna get out of it, who's already designing my monument that will be built to me. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in let's make Escondido the best that we can make it and leave a positive impact.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'll have a couple follow-up questions to that at the end.
Okay.
But we do have a question from the group around endorsements. And I've watched candidates who have gone through these processes before really fight for endorsements.
Mhm.
And I'm here with Don Greene. He's running for Escondido City Council District 3. When you go for an endorsement or you're looking for groups that endorse you,
Mhm.
talk to us, just give us a brief study on how that goes about, and then have you procured any endorsements in your candidacy?
Sure. Endorsements really are geared towards credibility, a little veritas, if you will. Um, the the process of like a party endorsement. So I have the endorsement of the San Diego County Democratic Party. In that process, I went to various Democratic clubs, geographic and affinity clubs, and talked to their club members, and then received endorsements from those clubs. That in turn translates to a vote or multiple votes at the caucus body that makes the recommendation to the party for endorsement. So on that level, you talk to your fellow party folks, and you are able to receive those endorsements. I'll be talking to a couple other groups later next month for their endorsement. I spoke with the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council that represent all of the labor unions and plumbers and electricians and building trades and those sort of things. They have endorsed me. So I have their backing, and that brings the support of working class families and their trust in my ability to help working class families. The district is 20% labor households. So their endorsement not only translates into trust and some credibility when I can post their logo, but it also translates into them communicating with their members saying, we have endorsed Don Greene in District 3, you live in District 3, we encourage you to go vote for him. So both credibility, and there's some other benefits that come along with it. So yes, I have the San Diego County Democratic Party's endorsement. I have the Labor Council's endorsement. I have the Sierra Club's endorsement. So I'm a very big environmentalist, and I believe strongly in increasing our climate action plan and really hunkering down on our targets. So the Sierra Club has endorsed me. Olga Diaz, the current council member, has endorsed me. There are elected officials all over North County and in San Diego that have elected me. Corey Schumacher, Catherine Blakespear, Tony Krantz. So I have a lot of those endorsements. North County Labor Alliance, which is the northern group of unions that are represented, they have endorsed me. So I have a very long list of endorsements. In fact, every group that has endorsed in this race has endorsed me. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big, big accomplishment.
Yeah, well, it takes work, and it takes relationship, and it takes listening and actively being a part of the process. So that's how that translates. That's why that's important.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Don. Really appreciate your passion for reaching out to those groups, and you have to present them with content that explains what matters to you, why community matters to you, what you're going to do to represent those groups for you to procure their endorsements. Mm-hmm. So we have a question from the group that's around what that vision looks like. Okay. And without getting into party platform,
sure.
You talked about you having a vision for Escondido being the best city in San Diego, or what we're going to do to sustain us being the best city in San Diego. What do you see as being a key component to that? And maybe where are we lacking right now in achieving that today?
Sure. The biggest challenge that we're going to have ahead of us the next year is our structural deficit. We're projected to have a $14 million budget deficit next year. So that's going to be a real challenge to find the proper balance in what I'm going to assume is going to be some cuts in service and in potentially staffing on a city level, combined with we have reserve accounts. How much of those reserve accounts do we use to move forward? So that's going to be a real big challenge, and it's going to take up a lot of our time. When I'm not worrying about all of that, I will be working. I have some key issues that I want to address. First of all, I want to look at in regards to climate change and helping with those. We have some big issues in the city. We don't have a proper tree canopy. Tree canopy is vital to our city. First of all, trees sequester carbon and produce oxygen. The shade lowers temperature. When we plant trees, we probably are taking up concrete or impermeable surfaces. That means that water actually gets to percolate down into stormwater, and rainwater gets to percolate back down into our water table. And so we have water that we can use and reuse and pump out of our aquifers. So instead of it going out to the sea and into our wastewater and our stormwater system, we can have trees that are fruit growing, so people can have access to that fruit that's growing right outside, right on their parkway, right at the edge of their streets. Also, increasing setbacks, complete streets, so they're walkable and bikeable. So we try to get cars off of the streets. If you look at our climate action plan, we have a challenge to bring business and jobs into the city, because the majority of our daily trips, our miles that are driven in the city, are people who either start in Escondido and leave Escondido for work, or they are in Escondido, somewhere outside of Escondido, and come into Escondido for either a job or for shopping or whatever the case is. So we really need to work on reducing those miles traveled by increasing the companies and the businesses that come here. Part of that process, I believe, will be entering the city into a community choice energy or community choice aggregation program. That means that the city essentially becomes a power company. What that does is that allows, as horrible as that sounds, I can hear some people out there already saying, "Oh my gosh, government being a public utility, how awful!" But what that allows us to do is it allows us to leverage with other cities to find more renewable and sustainable energy sources and bring power to you, with that power to the existing customers at the same exact level, same exact cost as they're getting power from SDG&E right now. Other people, if they want pure 100% renewable energy sourced, that cost will go up, but then they can, that's the choice that they're making to pay that extra cost for that energy. We have in our downtown area, which is part of the district, it's the westernmost portion of the district, we have a lot of flat roofs along Grand Avenue and all over the city that could have photovoltaic, solar panels on top of those roofs and generating electricity. I want to get those photovoltaic panels on top of the roofs in downtown Escondido, and then start to give discounts, sort of a space lease, if you will, to those businesses to help them with their bottom line. And that's going to be very crucial as we're coming out of COVID, and we're coming out of this time where a lot of our businesses are going to need all the help they can get. So it's sort of a win-win proposition to on a place where you probably don't even think about half of the time, unless you have a leak or something like that. You just put a panel on top, generate electricity for everybody in Escondido, and we'll give you a discount on your on your electricity rates, and that'll help your bottom line and help you be more profitable.
I love that idea. Anything that makes Escondido a better place to have a business, a better place to do business, and a better place to live. You're exactly right. So much of people are coming. It's perplexing to me that people live here and then drive away to work. And then people who work away live, and then they work here and then drive home. And then they have a business here, but then live someplace else. And I just, being somebody who actually has all of it here, it's a really neat place. But in your mind, when you think about community, and I really enjoy talking about community. I'm involved in the Center for the Arts. The Center for the Arts is a substantial centerpiece, a gathering place for the community in Escondido, a real treasure. If anyone hasn't experienced the campus in a meaningful way, it's very difficult to do so now in this environment, but it really is an expression of the inclusiveness of what our city can be. And so as you evaluate and think about, what does a thriving, effective community look like? what are those characteristics that you hope our community has?
I would like to see us have more of a public gathering space. Obviously not right now, but in those times when we can actually breathe each other's air and those sort of things. Sorry, that's a cuckoo clock going off. Um, I want us to have that sense of community. Great Day Park is wonderful. When we have community events such as the fireworks show for the 4th of July, when we have concerts, when we have movie nights, we fill the Great Greene full of people because that sense of community and that sense of place of gathering is vital. I would like to see us, we have Grand Avenue. If you haven't been down Grand Avenue in the last week or two, the outermost lanes have been blocked off in a lot of locations to allow businesses to come out onto the sidewalks and to expand their footprint so that they can be open, they can have people eating in proper social distancing. I think that that's a great idea. I think we should close that lane off anyway. In fact, I believe, and it's a great dream, and it's probably a little undoable right now, but never know. I would like to see us close Grand Avenue completely for pedestrian traffic from Juniper to, say, Escondido Boulevard, and have that as a space where people can come and can gather. I'd like to see us do, we can still do Cruising Grand. We can still bring cars onto that and have folks involved in Cruising Grand. Just, it will take the cruising aspect out of it. I agree, we'll work on it. Maybe it's not the perfect thing, but I'm willing to hear what people have to say about it. I would love to see us take a look at places like Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farms, where a parade suddenly gets lit professionally. We could have those lights in one area, maybe down towards Maple Street Plaza, and have a stage brought in and have concerts and have people who can eat at restaurants and enjoy the music, then get up, walk out into the street, dance, mingle with their friends. I want us to see us have a better place, a better public place where we can gather and we can really have a sense of the community that we are. I think we have the opportunity to have a very diverse experience in those places. We can have all different types of music, focused on all different sort of things, but creating that space, and then again, in an environment where I think it will be beneficial for businesses, because businesses can, double, or, at least have their space that they have now by moving out onto the sidewalks and moving out into that area. I think that's where I really wanted to, and that's not to take away from the Center for the Arts or the Great Greene. I think there's great programming opportunities to happen there as well, like the concert on the 4th of July, like the fireworks show, like the big movie experiences, but creating more of those public gathering spots so that the community can come together and really experience one another. I think that's vital.
Perfect. No, thank you for that. I'm going to shift gears for a moment, and I'm with Don Greene. He's running for Escondido City Council District 3. Don, thank you for being our guest today. Excited to have you.
Thank you.
One of the things in politics, and we talked about the negative, and I don't want to belabor that point, but I want to get to really the essence of who you are. Everybody in business faces challenges. They face challenges from their competitors. They face challenges from their dissenters. They face challenges from employees. They face challenges from themselves, from their pressures on family. And you have to make a constant choice. You chose to be here with us today. I appreciate that. Our guests appreciate that. But you have to constantly run this decision-making around, how do I devote and split my time? And as you're tugged for from so many people, I remember the first time I wanted to try to meet Olga, it felt like I had to stand in a long line just to get to her. And I had something I had to offer that I thought could really help, not something I needed. And even that was difficult. And so you're dealing with this constant tug and pull. How do you assess and how do you navigate that so you know you're spending your time on things that are important and valuable to you and to the community?
Well, there's as an elected official, there is a sense by people that they are entitled to have time of their elected official, and they do. I think that they do have the right to spend time with any elected official. Should I be the council member for District 3, then I think people in Escondido, especially my district people, but anyone, has the right to come and talk to me and have some of my time. In those experiences where you may think they might be tiresome, they might be awkward, they might be whatever negativity that you may want to assign to one of those public experiences, can probably garner a great idea, can garner a great collaboration. So there's always an opportunity there. There's always a possibility that you learn something new, you learn something that you discover something that maybe you didn't know, that a resource that you didn't have. So the reason that I think you felt the need to stand in line to speak to Olga is, one, you stood in line because a lot of people, like to share with Olga, and if they believe that the council member or the elected official is open to hearing their ideas, they're encouraged to do that. But second, I think that if you stood in line to speak with Olga, then you found, or you felt, that what you wanted to say would be heard and would be acknowledged. If you felt that a council person was just going to ignore you and say, okay, yeah, thanks very much, send me an email, goodbye, then you wouldn't waste your time. And that time that you invested and spent to talk to the elected official showed that that person was going to validate and acknowledge what you had to say. That's important for us too. That's important for me. I love talking to folks. I love listening to ideas. I don't have all of the ideas. Everybody that's watching and listening, everybody that lives in Escondido has an idea about what will make Escondido the best. Let's pull all those together. I will spend the time. My family, they understand what I'm doing. They know, we all sat down and talked about the time investment that it's going to take for me, and that every other Wednesday night you're going to see me on TV, and I'm going to be at City Hall for most of the day, and those things. So we had those conversations. So they had to buy in on it too. They had to be willing to allow me to give me up, so that other people I could focus on those other people who are donating to my campaign, who are taking the time to sign my nomination forms, that are taking the time to put a yard sign in their yard. All of those things, they're doing that to help me. I need to help them when I get in there. And so you really just kind of make the effort, and you just resign yourself to doing it. Is it always easy? No, but it comes with the job. If we want it, then that's what we do.
We all have to fight for the essence of who we are when we're faced with adversity. And you talked about having thick skin very early on, and you're going to have dissent. You're going to have conflict. Sure. That's the nature of what you're in. And the hope is that the outcome and the benefit that you generate, you leave the city better than you started with it. And I think that's a great goal. But in those times, what techniques or what do you do to help yourself stay true to yourself and work through that so that you can stay true to, I know why I'm here, and this is me. I'm still going to hear, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to adapt, but that it doesn't drag you down to the spot that you start to question what actually makes you you?
I think there's a great Jesuit practice of disattachment. And you don't become attached to things and ideas. You may generate them, you may hear them, and you may like them. But again, the ultimate goal is the product. So all of that process along the way, if I think something is really the best way of achieving a goal, I will advocate for it. If somebody comes to me and says, that's great, but here's where I see the flaws, I can choose to become offended by somebody finding a flaw, or I can say, you know what, let's look at that. And it's taken me these 54 years to really be able to say, okay, I'm not the smartest person in the room. Together, everybody makes this, makes it a better project and a smarter project. Let's really look at it. And it's that communication. It's talking about it. Not giving in, because certainly, again, if I think that my approach is the best, I will certainly advocate for it. But I can't. It's knowing it's maybe losing the battle to win the war, knowing which hills to die on, all of those tropes and cliches that come to mind, but really are true. It's, fight for the best thing that you can come out. And sometimes if what you want isn't the best, well, okay, you suck it up, and as long as what the ultimate outcome is the best for the residents and the taxpayers and the city of Escondido, perfect. I'm good with that. If I'm not again, I'm not asking for a monument to be built for, and I'm not looking for one either. So yeah, let's work together. And if conflict is there, that's a natural process in problem solving. There will always be conflict. So accept that and let's move on.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that there's elements of that we all can take with us in everyday life that can help each one of us navigate those kinds of obstacles, because we all face them. We're here with Don Greene. Don, thank you so much for being here. Don's running for Escondido City Council District 3. I have one last question,
Sure.
And then we'll open this up for Q&A. We'll stop the recording and people can ask live questions. We appreciate what you've done. We appreciate your contribution to the community and to the city. If you look back 4 years from now, you've been elected, you sat through the city council, you've gone through redistricting, you've gone through the obstacles you face. Is there one thing, or tell us one thing you can point to that you can say, I feel like I left the city better than I started? What would that be?
Well, I think overall, I'm really, it really is a key thing in me. If I can leave the city, a tangible thing would be an enhanced tree canopy and working on climate change and making the city better. In that respect, lowering the temperature, removing some impermeable surfaces, and really helping the health of the city. But ultimately, I would like in 4 years, if I'm not reelected or whatever the case is, I know that I will have done a great job if people have a better feeling about the city that they live in, and they can say that, or they don't remember who I am. Again, it's not about me. It's not about creating a name for myself. If public opinion about the city goes up and the quality of life goes up, and I had a part of it, that's great. If people can't remember me, I'm okay with that. That's perfect. If people remember my name, it's probably because I did something really, really stupid. So I would prefer not to have that happen.
Well, it is rare to stumble on someone who is a selfless and humble politician. Don, I think you embody that. Thank you for the contribution you've already made in our community. Thank you for putting yourself out there, being willing to take this step to contribute in another positive way for our community. And we all wish you best of luck and wish you well. And we thank you so much for being our guest today. Thank you, Don.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.